Carding is the process of brushing out textile fibers, usually wool or cotton, to align them so they can be spun into yarn. In the 1830s, fewer and fewer families were raising sheep and making some of their own woolen goods. But if you're raising your own sheep, then carding is one of the steps you have to worry about getting done, either carding the wool yourself by hand or paying a local mill like this a few cents a pound to do the carding for you. This building was built in South Waterford, Maine, probably between about 1810 and 1819. The reason we have this mill is that in 1955, 2 hurricanes came through New England back to back. And between them, they dumped so much water on the region that there were very destructive floods throughout New England. The flood damaged the foundation of the mill and destroyed the original water power system. And at that point, the Hamlin family, who owned the mill and up till 1955 had been running it part-time, realized it wasn't worth repairing it. And so Old Sturbridge Village and a few other museums started vying for the ownership of this mill. And we won. The building was brought here in big sections in 1963. The museum used a crane to take it apart at the corners and move it in large wall sections so as not to disturb the original plaster. And then it was reassembled here on site. They'd move the original foundation stones and then put the building back up on its original foundation. It took quite a number of years for the village to fully restore it and build a working water power system, and so we didn't actually have it operational until 1973. All our buildings here at the museum that are, between 180 and 200 and some odd years old need maintenance. So we've replaced the roof several times. Bits and pieces of plaster have been repaired. Occasional rotten timbers have had to be replaced. And just recently, the water power system needed a new bearing, and that was a major undertaking. Everything had to be disassembled, remade, and then reassembled. So we recently had the water wheel rebuilt. So hopefully it'll go another 20, 30 years without giving us too much problem. What we have downstairs is called a tub wheel. It's basically a big wooden tub, except the tub has no top and no bottom. But near where the bottom would be, there are horizontal blades coming off a vertical wooden shaft. Those blades sit about 7 or 8 feet lower than the mill pond outside. So when I open a door called the sluice gate, water falls, it picks up speed, hits those blades, and like blowing on a pinwheel, it spins the blades around. That's our water wheel. The walls of the tub redirect the water back onto the blades until all the energy's been expended. It then falls out the bottom and goes on downstream. The power from that water wheel is transmitted through iron gears to a couple of horizontal shafts, which have big wooden drums or pulleys on them. And then leather belts transfer the power from those and bring them up to pulleys right on the machines. The machines themselves are a series of round wire brushes that take wool off a feed apron, basically a conveyor belt, and brush it from one brush to another, to another, to another. And then at the end, you have a comb that goes up and down and scrapes the wool off the doffer, the last cylinder. And on one machine, it comes off in a continuous web to form batting, the filling for quilts. Or on the other machine, it gets turned into rolls, long, thin strands of carded wool to be spun on a spinning wheel into yarn. Hand carding, where you've got the same kind of wire bristles as the machine has, basically is a reciprocating operation, back and forth, as opposed to a continuous round and round process as the machine does. The nice thing about the machines is they never get tired, they never get bored, they never get distracted, and they do the same thing the same way over and over again, so you end up with a much more uniform product in a lot less time than carding wool by hand. If you were carding wool by hand and you knew what you were doing and worked at it fairly diligently, it might take you 2 or 3 days of just carding wool to card out the wool from one sheep. This machine can take that amount of wool and card it out better in about 20 to 30 minutes. The clothes we wear in the 21st century, wool, cotton, and some polyesters, still have to go through carding on machines of very similar designs to ours. But it's part of a textile factory process where all the steps are done mechanically and people don't have to think about it.